Welcome to Focus. What prevents the Europeans from competing with the Americans in establishing giant technology companies? This is a list of the 60 largest technology companies in the world. Almost all of them are American companies, and you rarely find European companies among them. But why? Europeans do not lack technological progress. Did you know that Tim Berners-Lee, a British computer scientist, invented the World Wide Web at the Institute of Physics Research in Switzerland? Also, Linus Torvalds, the Finnish programmer, is the one who created the Linux system. Google's artificial intelligence, which competes with ChatGPT, is built in DeepMind, the British company that Google acquired in 2014. The Europeans are supposed to remain able to compete with all ease. But despite that, there is no place in all of Europe that you can compare with Silicon Valley in USA. So why can't Europe create its own Silicon Valley? What are the problems that Europe faced and prevented it from achieving this goal over the past 60 years? There is a study conducted by the Milken Institute in USA that found that there are 8 basic factors to create a place similar to Silicon Valley, or a place where technology companies gather together. Examples of these factors are the trained workforce, the quality of the place, the moderate climate, house prices, the quality of housing, the availability of services, low crime rate, the presence of schools, and life safety. The study mentioned some other factors, the most important of which were the presence of advanced research facilities, educational institutions, and the presence of investment capital. All of these elements were available in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is a term used to describe an area in Northern California, America, with an area of up to 100 square kilometers. This area contains companies such as Apple, Google, Facebook, Tesla, Intel, and most technology companies. This area is where the most important advanced research centers are located, the first of which, of course, is Stanford University, from which most of the large technology companies started. Therefore, your presence as a student at this university provides you with very great opportunities. You have shortened most of the path because while you are a student, you will be able to make connections with many companies. The eyes of companies will look at you, so if you have an idea, you will be able to start your project quickly, and you will receive financing quickly, and you will find employees and trained people to help you, and you will also find students to work with you, and it is also possible to invest in your own company. You understand now why the most important element in the study is the presence of advanced research institutions. And the evidence you will see when you look at this list in front of you, look at these names, you will find many people you know who are at the top of famous companies now, and they are all graduates of Stanford University, or even were students who did not finish their degree because they are busy running their companies. Are the same factors available in Europe? There are some factors present in Europe, but not all of them. And if 1 or 2 European companies or a group of companies emerge, American companies will seize them. If you exclude Britain after its exit from the European Union and then search for the top 10 universities in the world in computer science, according to the Times classification, you will not find any university affiliated with the European Union. Britain alone is in a much better position because it has universities such as Oxford and Cambridge and a respectable number of university institutions, but the remaining 27 countries of the European Union are not strongly present in this classification. And do not get me wrong, this is not an insult to other countries, but it is a comparison to understand things correctly. So why can't Britain compete even though it has respectable university institutions? Why doesn't Britain create a Silicon Valley that competes with the American version? The reason is that there are factors other than universities and research institutions that do not exist in Britain, such as funding. Britain, like the rest of the European countries, has a big problem with the issue of venture capital, so financing in Europe is not available in the same way as it is available in USA. European companies depend heavily on USA for financing, as Paul Achleitner, chairman of Deutsche Bank, says. He said that Europe now depends almost entirely on American capital markets, and that is why I told you that as soon as a number of companies appear in Europe, USA will take over these companies. In order to understand the importance of venture capital for small companies, you must know that this type of financing is not just someone throwing money around. The investor often has a large stake in the company's ownership and a stake in management. The biggest goal of this type of capital is to grow you and get you to the stage of public offering on the stock market, or for a large company to take over you, and this is what Europe lacks compared to USA. In 2020-2021, the Financial Times said that there were 2,700 initial offerings on the stock exchange. The European Union's share was approximately less than 12%, while the percentage of America and Asia reached more than 60%. To some extent, we can consider this an indicator of the fear of European capital compared to American capital. This brings us to the fundamental difference between USA and Europe, which is the fear of bankruptcy. Some studies say that 90% of startup companies fail, and they do not have to fail in the first year. They may fail after 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years. So, do you like to fail in USA or in Europe? In USA, it is normal for you to fail and go bankrupt to some extent safely, and then settle your situation and come back again. This is thanks to the bankruptcy law in Chapter 11, which protects you. Therefore, you can file for bankruptcy, restructure the debts, and repay what you can, and in most cases, in less than a year, you will be able to return to the market again. There is a famous saying in USA that says, fail quickly so that you can quickly come back and start a new company. But in Europe, the situation is different. In Europe, the process of emerging from bankruptcy can take years, and they are not as tolerant of it as the Americans are, and this makes the spirit of adventure less in Europe. There is a fundamental difference between USA and Europe, which is how to attract talented people to work with you in your company. I will assume that I am the owner of a startup project, so I want to reduce my expenses as much as I can. But at the same time, I want geniuses to work with me. These geniuses want high salaries, but I cannot pay these salaries. Here comes the employee stock option system, meaning I offer them small salaries, and the rest of the salary will be stock options in the company, and when the company grows, the value of their shares will grow. This system is more easily available in USA than in Europe. There is another obstacle between European Union countries, which is the language barrier. Every country has its own language, its own culture, and its own regulatory laws. You will not find all these obstacles in USA. Imagine that Europe was able to overcome all these obstacles. There is still another important problem, which is the energy crisis. Europe does not have cheap energy, and the war between Russia and Ukraine has confirmed that energy prices in Europe will not remain cheap for years as long as there is a Russian-Ukrainian conflict. This means that European industry will pay approximately 3 to 4 times what its competitors in USA pay. Europe believes that all these obstacles can be overcome, but the biggest problem is that when small emerging companies rise, these companies will clash with the monopoly powers of American companies. So, this monopoly must be eliminated in order to achieve justice in the market. That is why they recently enacted the Digital Markets Law, DMA. This law is designed to eliminate the monopolistic grip of the gatekeepers. This is the term given by the law to companies such as Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. These companies are the ones that monopolize the European technology market, and any small competitor that emerges among them will be crushed. For example, a company like Facebook, all of its applications are linked to each other. The WhatsApp stands behind other applications and receives data from them. Therefore, it is difficult for emerging applications to compete with this type of application. It is possible, through DMA laws, to force, for example, Google to make some of the data it possesses available to its competitors so that they can train on it. This, in short, is what Europe is trying to do to pave the way for competition with the big Silicon Valley giants in USA. Do you think this will succeed in improving the technological situation in Europe? Tell me in the comments below. If you liked the content, please click like, subscribe, and hit the bell button.